In this video, we're going to see an example of creating a static method in our Java console app. We're going to solve this problem, write a Java program to prompt the user to enter an integer value, print a message saying if the integer is even or odd, use a static method named even odd that accepts an integer argument and returns a string. So in this case, we're going to write a method called even odd. It's going to take one parameter, which will be an integer value. It will do some calculation. It will determine if that integer value is even or odd, and then it will return a string. I'm going to return the string even or odd, as opposed to true or false or something like that. And then we will use that in the main method to print out a message. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. So we're going to do this using JDoodle. So I come in and start my Java program. Start with an example, just so we have some boilerplate code. Let's get rid of some of this. I just don't want to have to do the class definition, all that every time. So let's see, import java.util.scanner. With a semicolon. I'm going to go ahead and name this class as even odd example. Okay. All right, so let's jump in. So we're going to need to define the scanner. Okay. Now we can prompt the user for a value. Enter an integer. Spelling. Now we do the string input equals scanner dot next line. Then we can cast that into an int. Value equals integer dot parse int input. Okay, so now we have our value. Let's go ahead and run that, make sure I didn't make any mistakes. I did make an error. On line 5, even odd example.java line 5 says it can't find system. That's because it should be uppercase. Spelled that wrong, so run that again. Enter an integer 34. Okay, so that's all we've written so far. So that's all the program's doing. So now I want to write a method that will determine if it's even or odd and return a string, and then I'm going to call that method. So first thing, let's write the method. So when we create our method, we want to make sure that the method is inside the class. So in between the opening and closing blocks for the class, but it needs to be outside of main. So this is the main block. So we come in here and we're going to put it right here, public static. Okay. Now, in this case, it has a return value. So our return value is going to be string. So I'm going to return the word even or the word odd. Okay. It's going to be called even odd, and it's going to take one parameter, which is an int. We're just going to call it value. Now I've defined my parameter as value here. This is the same variable name as what I used in my main method. On line 8, I defined a variable named value. I've defined a variable here in the even odd method, also called value. Even though these two variables have the same name, they are different variables. So because they're defined in different places in two different scopes, value here defined on line 8 only exists in the main method. Value here on line 11 will only exist in the even odd method. So even though they have the same name, they're two different variables. Okay. So they could have different values, different, and we can act on them differently. But so even though they have the same name, two different instances of two different variables. Okay. So now we want to do a modulus function in order to determine if something is even or odd. So the modulus function is using the % operator. Modulus returns the remainder of a division. So if I say value mod 2, that's going to take value divided by 2 and return the remainder, which for when you mod by 2, it should be either 0 or 1. So the value is either going to be even or not. And so if the result of the mod function is 0, then we know that the value is even. Otherwise, it's odd. So let's do an if statement. If value modulus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, we're using an if statement. We're using the double equal. This is the equality operator. If that's equal to 0, then the value is even, and we want to say return even. Okay. Else, we want to return odd. Let's make that look. Let's just be consistent. Okay. Now, if we run this, it should compile. Nothing will happen because we didn't actually call the method. Okay, we've defined the method even odd, but we didn't actually call it, so nothing is happening. But it did compile, and so we know that we didn't make any syntax errors in our method. So now let's go ahead and print out the result. I could create a function here where I could say string. I'm just going to type this as an example. String result equals even odd. We'll go ahead and type this and then we'll change it and to show you a different way to do it. So result even odd value. Okay, so now the result will be a string that has the word even or odd in it. And then we can do a print line. And we can say, let's do a print F here, and we'll say %d, so that's going to be the value is, and then we'll do %s, that'll be a string, and then the replacement values here will be value and results. Okay. So now it should say 34 is even or 35 is odd. Let's run that, see if we made any mistakes. Okay, 34 is even. Okay, let's do an odd one. 35 is odd. Okay. So that's got it. So now we've seen an example here of creating a static method, even odd. It has a return value of string, takes one parameter, which is an integer named value. Here on line 9, I'm running this function and using this and storing the value in this result. I don't need to do this in a separate variable because the only place I'm using result is right here on this printf statement. So instead of running even odd value, even odd with the parameter of value, the argument of value there, instead of putting that in results, I can just put it here, even odd value. Okay, so I don't need to store that. I can just use the function like I would any other variable. Okay, let's run that and see if that works. 57 should be odd. Okay, there we go. So you can see when I define a function like this, it really works just like any other variable. All right, that concludes this example. I'm going to make sure to save this so that I can submit my work if I need to.